Hey guys, I've been looking into making this video for quite some time. I have been looking into getting solar for about 7+ years. It started with a salesperson knocking on my door, asking me, "Hey, would you like to lower your bill, your electricity bill?" Asking me questions. And from there on, it's been a growing frustration with the level of deception that has been in the solar residential installation. I have to date, I haven't installed any solar yet. I bought a panel, I tested around a couple of things, but that's all about to change, and I'll get to that shortly. But what I want to talk about in this video is why the solar industry is a huge ripoff. So going back 7 years ago, I had this person knock on my door, telling me that solar is going to change my life, and we're going to put a couple of panels on the roof, and my electricity bill is going to go to zero, and I'm going to save all this money. And I was like, great, let me, being a software engineer by trade, I was very curious in the nitty gritty details and how it works. Salesperson couldn't answer any of my questions, and couldn't even really tell me a number. They just kept pushing, hey, let me, if you're really interested, I could schedule time with someone knowledgeable to come in and crunch the numbers with you. And so I reluctantly signed up, and the person that came to my house to crunch the numbers was just another salesperson, but in a different, more solar specific. So he couldn't dive into the details of how the internals worked. They didn't talk to me about offline solar or grid tied solar or hybrid solar. It's just solar. And the second salesperson sat me down and said, "Hey, I need your electricity bill. I need to know your finances. I need to know all this information." I shared some information, and I wasn't going to give him, the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. So I told him, "Hey, I pay about $150 a month in my electricity bill. Here's what my bill looks like." He came back to me and said, "Oh, it's a very complicated algorithm. He's punching things into his computer." And he came back to me and said, "Okay, well, we could save you $125. So your bill um, for the next 20 years is guaranteed to be $25." And I was like, wow, that's great. Just to have a $25 electricity bill. And then he handed me this paper to sign. And he was like, "Hey, this is just information. Just sign the paperwork and we get started." And, I started looking at the next page, and it showed me a breakdown of the energy that I would produce through the solar panels and how much depreciation it would have. And right around, I think it was like the 20-year mark for me, there was like the lines would cross, right? So I asked him, I said, "Well, what is this 20-year mark?" He's like, "Oh, that's where your break point would be, or break even would be." And I was like, "Break even? Well, what's my initial investment?" And he said, "Yeah, it's on the next page." So I turned the page. I was surprised to see the number. It was $40,000. So basically, I'm paying this company $40,000 over the next 20 years to break even. But it was worse than that, because I would be paying this company $40,000 and I still had $25 in an electricity bill to pay. And I basically kicked him out of my house because I don't like people that are not straightforward. Like, if it's black and white, tell me it's black and white. Don't try to sugarcoat it. Just tell me this is the price this is how much money you're gonna be putting into this. This is what your return policy is. So I basically kicked him out and started doing my own research into solar panels and what they would cost and how much. Actually, I got two other people to come out to my house to give me an estimate. One person, um, he was a little bit more honest. He basically said that I would be paying the company money to loan me the equipment. Um, and then I would have to just offset the cost. So they would guarantee production for a certain period of time, and if there's any issues, they would come in and fix it. What none of these guys tell you is that the solar installation that they're doing to your house is a grid tied solution. What that means is if the grid loses power, you lose power. It doesn't matter if you're generating 100 kilowatts of electricity with your solar panel. It's not going anywhere because there's no battery to store the electricity. So basically what happens is you have your house, and I'll draw the picture. You have your house, you have part of the house, you have these solar panels. The solar panels tie into your electricity box here. That goes to the grid. Then the grid feeds you electricity. What basically they're paying you for is the difference between the two. So if you send $100 worth of electricity to the grid and you pull $125 to the grid, you pay that difference, the $25. The utility bill, the utility company will pay you, will credit you the $100 and charge you $25 because you use $25 more. But here's what they don't tell you: if the grid can't send you electricity, and you're still trying to put electricity onto the grid, and if this pipeline is broken, you don't have electricity in your house. No one explained it to me. You would spend $40,000, and no one explained to me that if you lose power, you would not get any electricity. I mean, back then it was super. I'm still somewhat of a novice in the solar industry, but I didn't understand that you actually need batteries in your house. So the way you want this to work, if I erase my picture, the way you want this to work is you have a house, you have solar panels on the roof that gets converts sun electricity. The solar panel goes and charges a battery bank. So you have batteries here, right? You have a positive and a negative, and you charge the battery bank. And then you pull electricity from the battery bank, right? In this example, my pictures are crude, but the idea is this is the only way you could generate electricity without being tied to the grid and worrying about the grid going out. But no one wants to sell you this solution because the most expensive part of your solar system is this part, the battery. If you wanted to buy a 50 kilowatt battery system, it's going to cost another $40,000 to $50,000 in addition to, at the time, which they were charging me $40,000 for just the installation of the solar panel and the tie into the grid. So he did not want to tell me that, hey, if you spend another $40,000 to $50,000, you can buy a battery bank and not worry about losing power ever. So that was about 5 years ago. That was about 6 years ago. 6 years ago, where I really understood the difference between on-grid solar and off-grid solar. And I've been doing research on, if I forget the installers, because I knew right off the bat they were crooks. I wasn't going to get involved in any of the solar installation with that group. But if I look into installing solar myself, so if I buy all the pieces, can I get someone to install it? And so then I went through this journey of figuring out, well, what are the different components of solar? How are they all tied in? And I figured out there were these companies, wholesale companies, that will sell you solutions. So basically, they'll put together the battery bank, the solar panels, the inverters, the charge controllers, all that. They'll bundle it together and they'll ship it to you. And you could go to Home Depot. Supposedly, what I read online is you could go to Home Depot, hang out in the electricity section for a while and wait for someone to come by and say, like, hey, would you install solar for me? I didn't go that route because I got stuck at the wholesaler's price for solar. So you know, going back to my example, the first line they told me it would be $40,000 to get it installed. When I went to solar wholesalers, their prepackaged kits were about 20,000. So I mean, I'm doing better. We're about half the price, but then I still need to find this mysterious person and pay them X amount of dollars to install it, right? And this system, I was like, well, so my next thought of thinking is like, well, if it's $20,000, what exactly is included in those $20,000? So my third round with solar was figuring out where are the wholesalers getting their equipment from. So I started looking into Canadian Solar. What a huge joke. Canadian Solar has nothing to do with Canada. Canadian Solar is distributed through, I believe, Canada, but it actually comes from China. So then I started looking into some of these. I went on Alibaba and some of these other websites to buy solar panels. Well, let me tell you, round three was not better. So I went from the solar installers in round one with 40,000 to the wholesalers at 20,000, and I landed on going directly to the manufacturers at 10,000, right? And I was like, oh wow! At each circle, I'm cutting this price down in half. But when you start going to a different country to buy solar, the problem there is they also want to bundle together a package to you. They want to tell you, oh well, we'll sell you the panels for pennies on the dollar or pennies per kilowatt, and well, you can't just buy the panels. You need this inverter. You need a charge controller. Here, we'll set you up with the whole package. The whole package will be $10,000. What they don't tell you when they're selling this information to you is the fact that, hey, that $10,000 is just for the equipment. Guess where the equipment's sitting? Over there somewhere in Asia. You have to ship that over to your house. And then you got to figure out the manuals and installation guides to figure out how to put this all together. And that trick of the wholesalers tell you, like, just go hang out in Walmart or Home Depot and wait for an electrician to come by and ask them, like, are they going to even be able to read the instructions that are in Chinese or India or wherever you get them from? So that was a big bust, and I wasted. Now I'm in year. This is about 5 years ago. So, and then we had a baby, and I a lot of things changed in my life, and I just dropped the whole solar project. So about a year ago, I started back onto solar, and I tried to pick up where I left off. I stopped at this $10,000, and I started looking into, well, what exactly is included in this $10,000, right? And then I broke the pieces down. I looked at a lot of good websites, or good YouTube channels. Mike Powell's, I believe his name is. He's really good, but he's focused more on the RV. Smaller installation. There's a lot of good DIY YouTubers that will explain solar to you. But really, there wasn't a channel dedicated to residential solar, and that's sort of where I want to pick in. I'm starting this channel to talk about how am I going to install solar. So I'll get into like the nitty gritty details, but in the next month, I just bought a bunch of equipment from multiple distributors or multiple manufacturers. I have about 5 kilowatts of solar panels, 20 kilowatt battery bank, and this. I'm trying to get this monster low frequency inverter that's somewhere like 20,000 kilowatts, more power that I could go through than I would ever need. I'm somewhere in the range of 8,000 to 12,000 kilowatts at any given hour in my house. But I'll get into those details later. Purpose of this video was to explain why am I doing this, right? I'm putting this channel together to kind of document my journey. I actually talked to a couple of my friends. I have an electrical engineer that's My brother-in-law, he'll probably be on some of these videos. A couple of my friends that's going to help me do the actual installation. So I need to explain to them what I'm trying to do. So I figured, hey, if I'm going to take the time to explain it to them, I might as well put together a video and share it with a bunch of people. So this video is just going to focus on the why. The why that I'm doing this is because the solar industry is corrupt, and you don't need a ton of money to get started. You don't need to put $40,000, $50,000 down to build a system that you could scale as you make more money. So this channel is going to be a journey that I'm basically going to take with the solar installation. I want to make videos at every step, not just like the perfect outlined, hey, look at this solar installation I do. All my conduits are made nicely and straightly. All the wires are put in nicely. I want to kind of document my journey, things that I learn along the way. So if I make mistakes, I'll try to put it on there as we do the installation. I'm going to try to put it on there, and hopefully make a couple of series of videos that if other people are interested in jumping into solar, they could look into it, see what's involved, the mistakes that I've made, the things that hopefully I learned along the way. Again, my background is in a software engineer. I don't know if I said that or not, but I'm a software engineer by trade. So I approach problems methodically. Never say that word, but I like to systematically approach it with, step one, figure out what all my pieces are. Step two, get a diagram together of how all these things interconnect. Step three, go into setting up where the solar array is going to be. And I have a multi-step process that I'm going to try to follow based off of the information I've gathered. I spent about a year pulling all this information together from different sources. I've also used that time to talk to different distributors overseas that are very knowledgeable, that sell good product. They're not trying to rip you off. I'm currently trying to jump through the hoops of actually importing this stuff to the U.S. To my house. That's been a journey that maybe I will make a video about later. And I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus specifically on the actual installation of the solar. So we'll get started on that, and hopefully I can help some folks along the way. Thank you.